So all 16 felony disorderly conduct charges against Jussie Smollett were dropped just like that. I, like the rest of you, was thinking, what the fox? Kim Foxx is the state attorney for Illinois whose office dropped the charge. For those of you who don't know me, I am Viva Frei, a Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and I, like the rest of the world, have been fixated and entranced by this story of Jussie Smollett. And when I read the other day that all 16 felony disorderly conduct charges were just dropped like that, without any advanced warning and without any explanation, I too was left bewildered and confused. I had more questions than answers, and as an attorney, I know that if I have those questions, chances are 95% of the population have the same questions. And I became fixated on understanding not why this happened, but how this happened. And in reading what was going on, I realized that I had a number of questions that needed to be answered. First of all, how does the grand jury indictment process work? Secondly, once the grand jury decides to indict, how do the charges get dropped without proceeding to trial? Now, I am a Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. I'm a commercial litigator, so I don't do criminal law. I never did criminal law even in Canada, let alone criminal law in the United States. So I did my own research, and coming from a family of attorneys, I have connections to attorneys in the US who could offer some explanations and some answers to the questions that I had and that I suspect other people had as well. Starting from the beginning, I'm not going to go over the facts of the Jussie Smollett case. I take for granted everybody knows what happened. Okay, fine, I'm gonna do the facts very quickly. Jussie Smollett filed a police report to the effect that he was attacked. It turns out in the investigation that not only was he not attacked, but that the police determined that he was in fact the one behind the attack, in that it was a hoax. The Chicago police spent upwards of a month gathering information and evidence, which they then take to a grand jury to present as evidence to the grand jury to determine whether or not there shall be an indictment. The grand jury, when presented with the evidence that the Chicago police brought to them, decide to indict Jussie Smollett on 16 counts of felony disorderly conduct. And then we get news the other day that the prosecuting attorney, just like that, decides to drop all 16 felony disorderly conduct charges in exchange for forfeiture of the $10,000 bond that Jussie Smollett put up and 2 days community service. Not only that, the file gets sealed and expunged. If you're anything like me, you're wondering what these terms actually mean, and let's go through this from the beginning to the end. From what was explained to me, in the case of felony crimes, what happens is that all of the evidence that is gathered is presented to a grand jury. Typically, this is done uncontested and in private. The reason why it's done in private is so that witnesses are not intimidated in terms of presenting the evidence, and so that all the evidence can come out to determine whether or not there should be an indictment or charges brought. The grand jury consists of ordinary citizens who review the evidence and determine whether or not an indictment should be brought, i.e. charges brought against the accused. The grand jury, in deciding to bring an indictment, doesn't mean that the individual goes straight to trial. After the grand jury decides that there should be an indictment, the prosecuting attorney then takes carriage of the file and determines how the prosecution should move forward. And this is where things got confusing for me. Once the prosecuting attorney took carriage of the file following the grand jury's decision to indict, my understanding was that they had to proceed to a trial. What I discovered in my subsequent research, and what was explained to me by the US attorney with whom I spoke, and what is not being reported properly by the media, maybe because they don't understand it, maybe because it's too nuanced. In criminal law, there is something called a pretrial intervention or a pretrial diversion, depending on your state or jurisdiction. What this means is it's sort of a non-criminal resolution to a first-time non-violent infraction. It typically applies to misdemeanors, which are not serious crimes, or non-violent felonies. And it is basically a way for a first-time offender to have an alternative resolution to a criminal accusation without having a criminal record as a result. It seems that this was Jussie Smollett's first criminal offense. That is to say that he had not been convicted or found guilty of any prior felonies or misdemeanors. He was accused of felony disorderly conduct, which is a non-violent offense. And if we believe what the prosecuting attorney tells us, there have been 5,300 other files that have been resolved through this sort of pretrial intervention or pretrial diversion. And so it seems that all that happened in this case is that the prosecuting attorney decided that Jussie Smollett, for his first-time accusation of a non-violent felony of disorderly conduct, was eligible for this program, and that justice would be better served by seizing his $10,000 bond, 2 days community service, as opposed to proceeding to a trial. So that is the explanation. I was also explained that typically the files are not sealed, nor are they expunged as quickly as Jussie Smollett's case was, but that is something that can be requested by the defense attorney, and, you know, if they're good enough or well-connected enough, it's something that you can sort of get as the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae that is pretrial intervention, resulting in no criminal charges, no criminal record, and no trial. Regardless, that is the explanation, that is the breakdown of what actually happened. There are a number of theories that Jussie Smollett might have gotten preferential treatment because of his connection to the Obamas. There's a number of pictures of Jussie Smollett with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama floating around there. There are a lot of theories that George Soros spent $80 million getting Kim Foxx elected state attorney, and that certain favors might have been called in. Ultimately, I don't care about the alternative explanations as to why. I just wanted to know how this happened. You might think there's a two-tier justice system, and by all accounts, there is. Whether or not Joe Schmo off the street could have gotten anything similar of a deal, call me a skeptic, but unlikely. Litigation is a rich person's game, and I suspect good criminal defense is even a richer person's game. Oh yes, let me pause this video for the obligatory like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I don't know if you've noticed, my channel is eligible for membership, so if you like my law vlogs and generally speaking the content I create, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share my channel, and if you feel so inclined, join as a member. And now you know, and knowing your vlog is half the battle? Peace out.